Now, what made these transportation people take this call? Were they wrong? Let us look at the measurements we apply on them. Our single point agenda is to tell them to reduce cost of transportation. And we keep telling them there's a cost of maintenance of your vehicle, there's fuel cost, there's overtime cost of the driver. You please plan better. On top of that, we keep telling them, I think you're very inefficient. If you utilize your driver better, I think you can make sure that everything is there in the company within the 8 hours of duty that we have appointed the driver for. But the moment something goes wrong, we say make the driver stay longer and get the material back, because there's no one rule that applies to all. Material should be always transported when it's ready. When a person starts behaving in this measurement environment, he tries to do the maximum with the least amount of money spent. The example I'm quoting plays out in 2 days. Also plays out at night, where a person much higher up in the hierarchy, supposedly with higher wisdom, is not available. A low level person is executing. So the driver which brings in the raw material is not the driver which sends out the finished goods. The driver which is worried about the raw material input has done everything right. He can prove it that he did nothing wrong. He saved the cost, and he also said that the overtime that he would charge would be much less than the time it would take for him to go back and come, and if he came a bit late, the second item would also have been late. So he did the correct thing by waiting for 2 hours. Otherwise, the second material would have been picked up at least an hour later, if 1.5 hours is his driving time to the factory. So he saved fuel cost, he saved the company 1 hour of overtime cost, so he did the right thing. But the final cost to the company was higher by nearly 20%. Emergency delivery and a longer delivery, plus a panic. It happened on 2 nights, and our ability to take a decision is based only on daily. So last night was an efficient operation, next day was also an efficient operation, because with all the eventualities, we were still able to reach the customer on time. Maybe some other day I'll look after the cost, but if I look at it, the efficient operation cost me more, or the behavior of mine under these current measurements has made me take decisions which have resulted in actually a loss or increase in cost to the company. The fellow who transported the item out would have said, sir, I got this material at 5 o'clock. What can I do? If they had given it to me at 3 o'clock, I wouldn't have the need to hire a special vehicle. When you talk to the production people, what did you do? They will say, sir, my machines were running. When this material was not there, I used another material to work on, and my utilization is good. Efficiency measures have an assumption that they are doing better in the local area, and the local area is isolated from the other one. That means the reduction in transportation cost actually gets translated into the reduction in cost of the company. There is an assumption that the reduction in cost of transportation will not impact the cost in any other department. And let us say that in a month, the total transportation cost does not go up. But did you notice on this particular day it went up? And why did it go up? And if it went up more than it should. Because if the driver would have made 2 trips, the second item which is just a regular item, has got no urgency in delivery, we would have just paid probably 10% extra or 5% extra in transportation cost. But we ended up paying 20% extra in transportation cost. Efficiency measures do tend to have this behavior. And this behavior later on translates into decision-making capabilities of companies. We call them local efficiencies. Let me talk about another way that people don't notice. Let's take the case of machine utilization. I just mentioned earlier that there's section A, section B, section C, section D. Any material the company makes has to go through these 4 sections. And we have just invested heavily and got a sophisticated machine in section C. This is a CNC, or let us say any sophisticated machine. Usually they are in manufacturing environment, they would be computer controlled. If that has been done, there is a tendency of the company to focus on this machine. What do I mean by focus? They think that if this machine is left idle, unused, it is not earning them money. If it's not earning them money and they've already paid for it and they pay, let's say, X amount per month, so X divided by total number of hours available is the cost per hour. If the machine doesn't work for that hour, it has costed them that and not done any productive work. That means it has not produced any item that can be sold. What is the point of reference? Cost. And we are trying to reduce costs. So what do? We say that make sure that this machine works. It should not go idle. And what is the measurement for this? Utilization. We can make charts of every hour of production so that we have 24 columns each day and we keep writing how many components are produced. Or some even say, yes, it was working every hour. Some companies can say, if the machine was being set up, it was still producing. So only breakdowns are noted and then the time remaining is said that the machine was being utilized. Let's begin. Now this machine being new is much faster than the previous 2 stages. That means the rate of production of this machine is much more than the rate of production at B and A. A is just a simple operation which just cuts the material, B does a rough machining on it, and C does the fine machining on it. Or you can say the finishing operation on it. Now the job of the section head to make sure that this is utilized. They think they put money on it. If it's utilized, the company will make more money. This pressure is translated into a high rate of production for station B and station A. Station A falters. Immediately they said the rate is less, let's get partly machined from outside. So now all that station A can make gets made, and that cannot be made by station A is bought in. That means we find a vendor to do the machining. We have balanced the capacity and now we come to station B. Station B is faster than station A but not as fast as station C. So now we get into this habit. Okay, let's make it work. In trying to do so, we do a lot of setup changes in machine B and make sure the machine C is fed. Now, the utilization of this machine is not 100% but 90%, which is good enough. However, the problem is not here. The problem is the rate of production at section D is very slow. What have I done till now? I have shown B is properly utilized and I keep changing my setup changes. C utilization is 95%, which is 95%, which is acceptable. A, which was very slow, I have got a vendor to take a bit of the load, so I have balanced the capacity. All my measures look good. I have done everything. What have I done? Landed up doing is, I create a huge pile of inventory in front of D. But that goes unnoticed. Why? Because D, which is slower, is always showing a utilization of 100%. C, which is my new machine, all focus on it so that it doesn't go idle, shows a utilization of 90-95%. Very acceptable. B is being worked very hard on and it's able to feed C. A, what it could do, it did, and what it couldn't do was subcontracted. All the necessary actions were taken to feed C. What did it do? It piled up inventory between C and D. D was not pulled up because it showed 100% utilization. So machine which is slow has shown 100% utilization, was never pulled up. Now why would it be pulled up? And why am I saying that it should have been pulled up? Because the purpose of the company is not to pile up inventory, is to get the sales. So what we landed up doing was, we increased the cost of material intake. Why? Because partly is now outsourced, and if somebody processes a raw material, they will charge you more. So I went to the subcontracting route. On top of that, my consumption of raw material went up, so I have to pay my vendors more. But that's immaterial. If machine C requires raw material, buy it. Whole focus was on utilization. Buying is not a problem. Why? Because the unit rate is very less. By doing that, what happens? A company's cash is basically, the dues against the company have gone up. But since we have not sold very much, I can't even pay my vendors. If I can't pay my vendors, I go into bank and ask for some loan. That increases my cost of operations. Do you get what I'm saying? That the utilization figure of the machine is not making me concentrate on how to make more profit. Utilization is making me go to a place where I can control costs. And these figures are not pointing me to the correct area of concern. And the area of concern should have been, or is, that why is my material not being sold? I have consumed so much of raw material, I have got so much of raw material from my vendors, I have to pay my vendors. But if I sit down on a review, what am I seeing? I am seeing my machine utilizations at good level. If there was a shortage of raw material, that was also looked after. That means my vendor management is good. As it is, I purchase at low price and I am still getting a better price because now my capacity at of consumption has gone up. So all the utilization figures I just talked about were good. But is that translating into profit? No. Let us look at the behavior it is driving. Whom am I troubling? I am actually after the life of my machine C, which is pretty good. I should be after the life of my machine D. But I can't, because the measurement I have put on it is utilization, and he is showing me 100% utilization. So here there is a case where the utilization is 100%, but I am not making money. That means I am not making profit. On paper it shows I will, but in reality I am not. But these are the efficiency measures which drive the behavior of a company. So what we are looking at is, are these measurements correct? If they are correct, are they driving the correct behavior? If they are driving the correct behavior, does it also tell me when to correct my behavior? If we ask these questions to ourselves, the answer would be no, that these efficiency measures are not helping me correct my decision making. Why do we measure? We measure because we can take corrective action. But if you look at the measures of utilization that we have put in place, they are all working fine. That means they are telling me that you don't need to take any corrective measure. The most common efficiency measures that we have talked about till now, utilizations, material costs, labor productivity, my cost of buying, if these measurements are used constantly to take operational decisions, it is quite likely that the company will miss its purpose of making profits.